We end tonight with the clearest pictures yet of Neptune.
And speaking of space, NASA's James Webb Telescope captures the clearest look at Neptune's.
It started like every other mission, a cold, dark corner of the solar system, far beyond the reach of any warmth we've ever known. Just another flicker in a sea of invisible things. Distant, silent, forgettable. The kind of place we map out on paper but never dream of visiting. A dead zone of ice and dust. That's what we thought. Until James Webb looked again. Imagine staring into the darkness for so long that your mind forgets what movement feels like. Then suddenly something twitches, something pulses, something breathes. That's what this was like. This wasn't just a rock frozen in space. It was alive. Maybe not in the way we define life, but alive in motion, in mystery, in contradiction. It was supposed to be ordinary, a routine object in the Kuiper belt, one of those ancient leftovers from the solar system's chaotic youth. But James Webb saw something flicker beneath its surface, a glow that shouldn't have been there, a pulse of energy where none should exist. In the silence beyond Neptune, where even the sun gives up, the telescope found something that refused to die, something that shouldn't be able to survive at all. Bursts of infrared light started streaming from this little speck of darkness, each one a whisper of heat in a place where heat has no business being. Not a flare, not an accident, but something repeating, something regular, like a breath. Scientists stared at the data in disbelief. The patterns weren't noise. They weren't equipment glitches. They were signals, real, structured, impossible. Something beneath that icy crust was moving, shifting, generating energy. And for a world billions of miles from anything that could warm it, that's more than strange. That's revolutionary. Webb's instruments dug deeper, peeling back layers of spectral data. What they found was the stuff of science fiction, the fingerprints of organic chemistry, complex compounds interacting in ways we don't yet understand, not just frozen methane or scattered carbon. Something more elaborate, something that hints at change, at reaction, at the very building blocks of life, gathering and shifting in a place we'd abandoned to stillness. It wasn't just the heat or the chemistry, it was everything. The surface showed scars, fresh ones, vents that had recently opened and closed again, fissures leaking out what looked like frozen steam, signs of geology, not decay, not ruin, but process, cycles, movements that shouldn't happen on an object without a planet nearby to pull at it, twist it, keep it warm. This object was out there on its own. No tides, no sun, just darkness and emptiness. And still it burned. What could power something like that? A radioactive core? Maybe. But the idea that heat could survive for billions of years in such a tiny, isolated body, that theory was always a long shot. And yet here we are, looking at a frozen world that may be generating energy in ways we've never seen before. A place that was supposed to be silent, but now hums with a rhythm we don't understand. And then came the biggest shock of all. A magnetic field, weak but unmistakable. A presence around the object that suggested it wasn't just holding heat, it was moving it, circulating it. Maybe through liquid, maybe through salt, maybe through something we haven't even imagined yet. The kind of internal structure that requires motion, fluidity, balance. The kind of behavior that forces us to reimagine what's possible. This wasn't just another rock in the dark. This was something new, something we didn't have a word for. A whisper from the void, telling us the rules have changed. Or maybe that we never really understood the rules at all. There was a time not long ago when scientists thought the edge of our solar system was a graveyard, a place where all things went to sleep. No heat, no motion, no life, just silence. But this one discovery has ripped that belief wide open. Because this object, this forgotten speck drifting beyond Neptune, is doing the unthinkable. It's moving, shifting, changing, and it's doing it in a way that defies everything we believed about distance, time, and isolation. The more they looked, the more it broke the rules. The object wasn't drifting randomly. It was following an orbit that twisted and looped with elegance, a long stretched path that dipped into Neptune's gravity only to swing back out into solitude. But even stranger, Webb detected a tiny, almost imperceptible acceleration. Something was pushing it, ever so gently, not enough to be seen with the naked eye, but just enough to whisper that something else was there. This is the kind of anomaly that scientists dream about and lose sleep over, because that acceleration doesn't match any known force. There's no planet nearby, no moon pulling at it, nothing in the data that explains the drift, which leaves only two options. Either something inside this object is propelling, shall we, some internal mechanism we've never seen before, or something else is out there, something bigger, something hidden in the cold. It's here that the whispers of Planet Nine return, that mythical, theoretical world that some astronomers believe is lurking in the deep black, warping orbits with its unseen mass. For years, it's been little more than speculation, a ghost at the edge of the solar system. But now, this anomaly, this tiny nudge in motion, could be its echo. Not proof, not yet, but a hint. A suggestion that something else is pulling the strings from even farther away. And still, the mystery deepens. Around the object, Webb found a halo, an envelope of dust and particles thicker than expected. Far beyond the heliosphere, where the sun's influence fades, this cloud shouldn't be there. But it is. And it's not just floating, it's reacting, changing shape, shifting with currents we don't fully understand. It's as if the object isn't just drifting through space, it's interacting with it, shaping it. The cloud bends in response to solar winds, but also to something more local, something tied to the object itself. Maybe it's magnetism, maybe something else. This is where the language of science starts to fail us, because we don't have the right words for what we're seeing. This object isn't a planet, it's not an asteroid, it's not a moon. And it sure isn't just a ball of rock and ice. It's something else, something new. Maybe a new class of celestial object. Maybe a bridge between categories we never thought could connect. And it's not alone. That's the most chilling part. Because if this one was hiding in plain sight, cataloged and forgotten in the databases, how many others are there? How many more living relics are spinning silently beyond our gaze, waiting to be found? This one was discovered by accident, a twist of timing, a lucky angle, a chance exposure, and yet it might be the most important find in decades. What happens when we start looking on purpose? Suddenly, the map of our solar system doesn't feel so complete. Suddenly, the darkness at the edge isn't empty. It's pregnant with possibilities. We thought the outer reaches were a wasteland. Now we see they might be something else entirely, a frontier, not of death, but of birth, of strange new chemistry, of hidden heat, of untold stories. And through it all, the James Webb Space Telescope stands silent, watching, gathering light from the coldest places, telling us truths we never expected. It didn't just show us what's out there. It showed us how little we understand, how much we still have to learn. The edge of the solar system isn't the end. It's just the beginning. The strangest part of all this, the part that lingers in the quiet after the data is reviewed and the headlines fade, isn't just what we found. It's what we almost missed. This object wasn't the result of a grand expedition or a billion-dollar mission. It was an afterthought, a side note in a survey of icy rocks. If the telescope hadn't glanced its way at just the right moment, in just the right light, we would still believe this region was silent, lifeless, done. But James Webb didn't just stumble upon something odd. It cracked a door open, a door we didn't know existed. And now that it's open, we're left standing on the threshold, looking into a kind of darkness that feels alive. Not in the sense of plants or animals, but in motion, in change, in mystery. The kind of aliveness that makes you wonder if everything we've assumed about planets, about life, about isolation, was built on sand. Because what do you do with a place that was never supposed to have energy, but does? What do you make of an object that shouldn't be able to move, or breathe, or pulse, But does all three? And what if it's not alone? That's the question haunting the scientists now. Was this discovery a one-off miracle, or the first crack in a much larger wall? Teams across the world are racing through old data, Voyager's dusty archives, New Horizons snapshots, even forgotten frames from obscure sky surveys, looking for signs they might have overlooked. Signs of heat, movement, magnetism, buried in the noise of distant space. And as they search, something deeper is settling in. A shift, not just in what we know, but in how we think. We used to draw neat lines around the habitable zone, that magical distance from a star where warmth and life might flourish. Earth was the Goldilocks planet, and anything too far was written off. Too cold, too dark, too late. But now, what if that idea has always been wrong? What if life, or something like it, doesn't care about warmth? What if the ingredients don't need light, only time? What if the universe has been writing stories in places we refuse to read? That's the wonder this object has given us. Not just the data, but the doubt. It forces us to ask better questions, to rethink what alive might mean. It reminds us that discovery doesn't always roar. Sometimes it flickers in the dark, waiting patiently for us to notice. And maybe the most profound truth is this: we are just beginning to hear the heartbeat of the void. This one discovery is a reminder that our solar system, our backyard in the universe, is still a mystery. It's still evolving, still hiding things, still teaching us how to be curious. So as the James Webb Telescope continues its quiet vigil, scanning skies so far and faint we barely understand them, we're left with something rare, a spark, not just in the data, but in us. A sense that there's more out there, that the universe still has secrets it's willing to share, but only if we're willing to listen. And in that cold, forgotten corner of the cosmos, something is whispering back, something ancient, something impossible, and maybe, just maybe, something waiting to be known. If you felt the wonder in this story, give this video a like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think James Webb found out there? Until next time, stay curious. The cosmos isn't done with us yet.